Hey guys, it's Corey with Wonder Dog from Who Let the Dogs Out, and I've got Sally with me. And we're going to try something new on the intro. We're going to try to synchronize the intro statement to the podcast. So here we go. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Who Let the Dogs Out. The podcast is on to help you enjoy life with your best friend without all the frustrations. Join us each week as we do just that. I'm your host, Corey, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Sally.
And we did not synchronize well. We're going to practice that off camera, and we'll.
That's a lot to try and synchronize when he just throws it at me.
I've only done it for 19 episodes now. I guess this
and
is
I
episode
sit
19.
here and smile because you're doing the words.
Yep. Do you want to? Can you give it a shot from memory? Welcome to Who Let the Dogs Out. The podcast designed to help you enjoy life with your best friend.
Yeah, that's our mission.
That's about Sally's, like how Sally normally acts whenever she's reciting our company values. Just kidding. She's actually gotten better at those.
I'm only 5.
I was about to say only 5.5 years
I'm only
in.
5 and something years in, and I actually can do it word for word now. I never used to be able to. I used to put my own words in.
Yep. Anyways, all right, with that being said, we got a show for you today. We've got a dog talk coming down the pipeline, and we're going to talk about the process that we use to take dogs from like where they start in training to how we turn them into Wonder Dogs. And we'll be talking mostly about our off-leash program because that's like what most families go with us through. But whether you do train with us or not, like you could apply the same like outline to your own training program at home to turn your dog from where he or she is at now to a Wonder Dog. So with that being said, that's going to be the topic today. And this is a dog talk where Sally and I come on and talk about a topic related to dogs, dog ownership, dog training, and we break it down for you step by step. And then we've also got Q&A. Those are fun because you guys write in the questions and we give you the answers. If they want to write in a question, they can reach you at
Sally@wonderdogtraining.com.
And they can reach me at Corey from Wonder Dog on Instagram. So if you want to ask a question that you want us to answer live on the podcast, just send those into one of those two places. It'll be in the description below. And as we keep growing the show, we're going to have other formats like live shows, debates, interviews, different things like that. Yeah. But for now, that's what we're sticking with. So anyways, if y'all want to, please like, follow, subscribe. We talked on the previous podcast about how we were almost over the hump of 100 subscribers across all the different platforms that we're on and stuff like that. So anyways, if you like the show, please subscribe to it, follow it, etc. If you get any value out of it, what should they do?
Share.
Yeah, share it with a friend.
Share it with your friends and your family,
colleagues, associates,
everybody. This is free advice.
Exactly. So if you get any value, please share the show. And I think that's pretty much it. So I guess we'll jump in. And how's Sully doing? I think you mentioned earlier he's starting to like pull a little bit more on his walks and stuff. So we need to do a follow-up appointment.
We need to do a refresher, and it may be a refresher on my handling the situation. Right. And he's pulling because if we go on a certain walk, there's a favorite spot that he likes to go and sniff. Mm-hmm. And he knows that we're heading that way. So in his little mind, it's
big mind.
Get there.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like,
slow
we're
it
out
down
for a little stroll and we're enjoying things. But he's like,
my
favorite place is
what does he do? Yeah.
Actually, he's like this.
Okay.
As he's pulling.
And he does that when he's pulling? Yeah. Yeah, we're going to clip that and put that on. We're going to clip that. Oh, God, that's so funny. Okay. Anyways, that's Sully. So we need to do a follow-up appointment, it sounds like, on Walking on Leash.
We need to check, what I need to do, whether I'm doing it incorrectly doing his correction there. So
yeah, well, that's cool. By the time the folks listening to this, I'll be in Texas. I'm going to Nipopo Gold Dog Training School. That'll be cool. I'm going to learn under one of my mentors that I had when I was in dog training school, and he's down in Texas now, and I'm doing Nipopo Gold. Through him, I just graduated silver, I guess this past week, the week that I'm currently in, but we're recording these a little bit in advance because I'll be out of town for a couple weeks. So anyways, that'll be cool. I'm excited to report back whenever I come back and tell y'all everything I learned and all that kind of stuff.
What do you mean whenever you come back? It's when I come back.
What did I say?
You said whenever I come back.
Oh,
as
yeah,
though
when
you've
I come
gone for
back.
forever. Don't you dare
I might just move to Texas and
move to Texas.
go work for Yoris.
Don't. I don't want a phone call one morning going, by the way,
Sally, I've moved to Texas.
you
I'm living in
yeah.
a trailer on a dog ranch.
Can you cancel all my family? It's like, no.
Yeah. Anyways, but no, I'm excited to come back and report. I'm excited to go and learn.
Yeah.
It's like a whole new system of training to me. So, and I've heard about it for years, and finally just took the leap and said, "Hey, I want to learn this," and
Another
decided to do it.
to
So,
your bow, master
yeah, for sure.
trainer.
Yeah, I will say I was really excited to pass and get my silver certificate. So,
Good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good
So,
job.
anyways,
Congratulations.
yeah, I'm excited to come back and report
Yeah,
on how it
I
is.
can't
So,
wait to hear all about it. Maybe you'll try some of these new techniques on my Sully boy.
I'd be happy to turn him in my little test experiment.
It can be.
It's not really an experiment because I know what I'm doing. It's just
Yeah.
but
He's-
practicing on Sully,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because he definitely could use a little bit of training.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you know what, we'll save that for another podcast. All right.
Yeah, but before I let you go on the dog talk,
Okay.
can you remember last time I didn't have a joke?
Yeah.
I've got two.
You got two.
I've got
two
two.
jokes for the people. Mm-hmm. Okay, tell us your dog jokes.
Let's get them out the way.
Go ahead. Tell
Okay,
them.
so this is a good one coming from me.
Not
How are dog catchers paid in the UK?
in pounds.
Dude,
Not
you
funny.
spoiled
Not
it.
funny. Not funny.
By
How are
the
dog catchers?
pound.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yep. That one's too easy. You'd know something about that though, because you are from the UK. Anyways.
That's why I thought it was relevant.
Anyways, all right. Next joke, please.
Poo-pooed all of them a joke. People.
Next joke.
Okay. Why are dogs terrible dancers?
Because they have two left feet. Did I get it?
I quit.
I got it. Yeah, those weren't really funny. You need to try harder.
Do I look amused?
I'm amused. I thought that me knowing them was funny. I didn't. Anyways, that's good. Good stuff.
Okay,
Good
that's all
jokes.
I've got
Good
for
jokes.
you.
Okay. Well,
I
if y'all
hope you-
thought they were funny, then you could let Sally
I
know.
hope
and-
you're going to make up for that now with a really good dog talk. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, anyways, that's it. So if
Okay.
you think the jokes were funny, let us know. Because, anyways, all right. So dog talk. So like I said, today I really wanted to break
Yeah.
down what we do for families in our main program that we do. So we really sell two main programs, right? We have
Yeah,
on-leash
we do.
training and off-leash training. So on-leash is mostly, it's as it sounds, it's mostly focused on a leash, right?
Yeah.
Now clearly when dogs are in the house, we try to have them off-leash as much as possible, but it's mostly focused on a leash, right? Off-leash would train, the program that we do trains dogs to be on-leash and off-leash everywhere, right? So what we do is we, like I said, train the dogs on the leash and off the leash. But what I wanted to do this week is typically this program takes about 6 weeks, give or take a week. So, and we're pretty unique. We guarantee our work. So if
do.
we're doing our part and the family's doing their part and the dog's not trained in the 6 weeks that we plan out, if we end up needing to add an extra week or 2 or 3, we don't bill people extra for that. As long as they're putting in an honest effort and doing their part. But typically it takes about 6 weeks, generally speaking. So I wanted to break down that 6-week window
Great.
and talk
idea.
about what we do on those weeks and things like that, and really break it down and give people a training plan and outline to follow. Now I will say before we jump in, this program plan is not it's editable, it's alterable. It's not something that we
set in stone.
Yeah, it's not we're putting every dog into this box, right?
Yeah.
If a dog needs a change of plans, we change the plans. If the family needs a change of plans, they need to work on this before this, then we do that, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, generally speaking, with most families, this is the general structure that we use.
The most natural process.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so we do edit it and alter it, though, according to the dog's needs and the family's needs and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, so I would say, I'm not going to say all, but most of the dogs that come to us are generally over 6 months. I'd say in between 6 months and 2 years, 80% of them at least. Then you've got the 20% that are under 6 months and and as well as over the 2 year mark, right?
Yeah.
But 80% are in between 6 months and 2 years, right? So I'm going to talk to you those people that have dogs within that age range, right? most of those dogs come to us with like very similar like problems and goals, right? So like goals that people have for the dog, they want just like basic commands, basic manners.
Yeah.
When people walk in, they want them to greet their guests well. If they're out and about, they want them to greet people well. They don't want them jumping all over them and acting crazy.
Yeah.
When they go on a walk, they want to be able to walk nice, right, with their dog and not have their dog pull the whole time. They want to be able to call their dog to them and have their dog come every single time, normally off of the leash, right? They want to be able to take their dog places a lot of times. So like, and even if they don't plan on taking the dog out socially, like to a bar, or not a bar, but like a brewery or a patio or something like that, they want to be able to at least take their dog to the vet and know that it's not going to act like a terror at the vet, right?
Yeah.
Some people want to be able to travel with their dogs. A lot of people, clearly want their problem behaviors to go away. That's a huge goal of people, but I'm separating goals and problems. But those are like, and I'm definitely missing some stuff, but those generally the goals that most people have. They want their dog to be able to be off leash, greet people well, all just the basic stuff, right? That's what most of the families that come to us want. And yeah, so that's typically the goals. And that's normally what we help people get to and actually accomplish, right?
Yes.
Now, where do dogs start? Most dogs with us start by knowing, I'd say a few commands, like they normally know sit, lay down, and shake and stuff like that. The problem is that to get the dog to do those things, they typically have to have like a bag of treats around, right? And so they have to like jingle the bag and like bribe the dog to do the behavior. Or if there's a distraction, you can forget about it. It's not going to actually do what it's told, right? Some dogs come a little less trained, some dogs come a little more trained, but that's generally the gist of like what most dogs that come to us in training know, right? And then problem behaviors, most of them come with like the same general, like I'd say like 5 to 8. Some dogs have a little less, some dogs have a little more, but for the most part, some of the dogs that we get aren't potty trained. They need a little help with potty training, having accidents here and there. They jump on people. They jump on furniture. That's only a problem if people care about furniture. Most of our clients don't these days. They don't want their dog bolts out the door. It doesn't obey. I would say another goal people have is door manners, but it bolts out the door. If it does bolt out, it doesn't come. If it's in the backyard, it doesn't come. Dog park, it just doesn't come whenever they call, right? Pulls on the leash, badly. Counter surfs, begs for food, things like that. Maybe puppy nips. A lot of dogs that we get play the leave it game where they get like a sock, shoe, paper towel, something like that, and then they make the owner chase the dog around the house and stuff like that. Yeah, you know that one. And then a couple other ones is maybe like scratching, digging, excessive barking, nuisance barking, things like that, right?
Yeah.
Most of the dogs that we come to have those behaviors. I mean, they might, and then some of the families have like specialized behaviors that like they have. Like we've talked about like people on other podcasts about like going up and down the stairs or won't get in and out of the car or too hyper in the car or humping or something like that, right? So we get like other behaviors, but generally speaking, most dogs fall within that box of those behaviors that I just listed, right? So with that being said, that's kind of the goals that most people have and the problems that most of the people come to us with training. So then like what's the process that we do to actually like one, get people to those goals and help them make the change, and then also work on the transformation where those dogs either A, don't do the problem behaviors at all anymore, or B, if they do happen, it's seldom, and when it does happen, it's rare, and the human also knows how to handle it, right? Because we do tell people up front, like one, we don't want your dog to be a robot or a police dog, right? Like I want Sully to be Sully. I just want him to listen to you and be good for you on walks, right? I don't want him to be a robot. He does not need to be a police or military dog or anything, right?
Yeah.
Also, that, and then I was going to say something else, lost it. Anyways, but yeah,
so we're pretty much not changing personalities.
That's the goal, right? Yeah, we want the dog to just like listen and respect what we say, right? I feel like what I was about to say was important, but like I said, completely forgot. So it'll come back to me later.
I bet it'll come back.
Anyways, so what's the process though that we like walk people through? Generally speaking, like I said, this plan's editable and alterable to your needs and stuff like that. But generally speaking, the if we have like 6 weeks of training that we have scheduled out, like how do we get dogs from like jumping, pulling, bolting off, running away, not listening, counter surfing, all that stuff to like dogs that like actually listen and are certified Wonder Dogs by the end of the process? Well, the first week we typically start with like door manners, walking on leash nicely, and then like general behaviors that we can fix with the dog being on leash, right? Now we've got a handful of purposes for this. So most of the dogs that come to us, I'd say, are under exercised. Some families do a really good job like walking their dog despite the dog pulling and being a nuisance, I guess you could say, on walks. Some families don't exercise their dog at all because it's like tough for them to do based off of the dog's behaviors they have currently, right? But yeah, so we start with walking the dog and door manners. So we start with like door manners, and on this first lesson, we typically use like a prong collar or something like that. And we're also like balance trainers. So we're using like a bunch of treats and we're using corrections, right? Like that's the gist of balance training. And the goal is hopefully to end up in a spot where like you don't need a bag of treats, but you also don't need to correct the dog either, right? That's like the ideal goal long-term, right? And if you're interested in learning theory about like how dogs learn and training philosophies and stuff like that, you can get our old episode called How Dogs Learn, and we can break that down. So anyway, so that all being said, week 1, leash, prong collar, and we're going to work on door manners first and foremost. So teaching the dog to just sit and stay at the door until the dog hears a release word to actually go out the door. Why is this important? Well, most of the dogs that we have pre-training bolt out the door, right? And a lot of our families have kids, or they at least have Amazon and they get Amazon packages, right? So they open up the door to grab a package, or the kids come in the door, and kids are terrible at closing doors, right? Yeah. So you have to teach the dog a boundary to say, hey, don't go across this line until you're told to go across this line, right? Now, will the dog have that mastered after week 1? Maybe not, probably not, but it's a good start to just making the dog second guess stepping over the line, right? So we teach the dog, hey, sit and stay at the door till you're told to go out the door, right? That's really important for just basic safety, right? We want to teach the dog, hey, don't go out the door unless you hear your word. Now, from there, what we typically do is then once we actually have trained the dog and the dog's competent on that, we'll move outside. And we start with an exercise called the Crazy Man Walk. And we call it that. I actually learned this from another mentor of mine who is named Ty the Dog Guy, or just I guess the name to it. I was already doing it, but put the name to it. But anyways, we basically just start by walking in different directions with the dog. And we just teach the dog like that leash pressure means, hey, follow me, right? So dogs are used to, as soon as they walk out the door, they go crazy. They start pulling, they're going on their walk, right? They're ready to sniff and stuff like that. You know what that's about, right? We just talked about it. And so anyways, we start with that. And so we teach the dog, hey, if you pull this way, we're going to turn and go this way, right? If you pull this way, we're going to turn and go this way. If you pull this way, we're going to turn and go this way, right? And so we start teaching the dog, hey, you have to follow me first and foremost, right? And so if you do, you get a little tug on the collar whenever you're walking in play. Like, we're not focusing on walking on a particular side. We're not focused on heel. We're just teaching the dog have slack on the leash, right? Yeah. And then once we're pretty confident in that, then we can start moving with the dog in a straight line and working on walking like on a loose leash, right? In a straight line. And so that's the first step, really, is just teaching the dog like basic leash pressure, and then from there, walk in a straight line on a loose leash. Then from there, what we'll do is we'll start reeling the dog into the heel position. Heel just means walk in the bubble right next to me, right? Yeah. Now, I personally recommend people do like 80-20 on their walks. So 80% in heel, 20% free and sniffing, right? Yeah. The reason for that is because and now not all of our trainers here at Wonder Dog recommend that. That's okay with me. A lot of our families just want to loose leash walk their dog. That's okay with me too. You don't have to do it. Yeah. It's not my way or the highway, right? My suggestion though is 80-20. The reason for that is because if your dog's walking in heel at 80% of the walk, your dog is going to learn to, one, walk and heel better, but two, it's also, your dog's gonna get roughly the same amount of steps in. The difference now is that if the dog's in heel, he has to think about where to be, right? So it's a physical exercise, and now he's using his brain too, health. Right? Yeah, mental exercise. Yes, exactly. So that's why I prefer walking in heel. And then I'll use that same password we use to let the dog out the door, out of the heel bubble to go sniff, pee, poop, be a dog, etc. Right? But that is typically how I start like lessons. And most of our trainers, like I said, generally follow this structure as well. Yeah. Like I said, they do different stuff and different, but like I said, it's not my way or the highway here. As long as you do this stuff and you get there, that's fine. But that's the general start of the program. And then from there, that first day as well, we'll typically work on leash things that we can fix with a leash and a prong collar, right? So we work on like jumping on people. So we'll go in and out of the door a handful of times. We'll work on like jumping all four on the floor. Or maybe like couch manners or something, whatever the people want to work on, that's possible to work on with a leash and a prong collar, right? That's week 1. From there, I guess before I move on to week 2, do you have any questions about any of that?
Do people see results on that first week?
Absolutely. People are blown away. Like, I can't tell you how many people have said, like, because we also guarantee results the first lesson. So we'd say, hey, you're not going to be, generally speaking, you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks to see results. You should see a difference with your dog that first day, all right? Okay, so anyways, that's week 1. So let's talk about week 2. So week 2 is where we start like implement. Now, once again, I'm talking about our off-leash program. But week 2 is where we'll start implementing typically a remote collar, right? And so how we do that, now there's 1,000 ways to get to this and teach a dog this or whatnot. This is just simply the way that we like best and what seems to work best for us. So if we're using a remote collar for off-leash, we typically start with that with week 2. On week 2 rather. And so what we do is we use a long leash and a remote collar for that, like a 20, 30-foot lead. What we'll do is we'll go out in the front yard, backyard, something like that, and we just start simply teaching the dog his name, her name, followed by the come command, and then a tap on the, and then we use the remote collar to tell the dog like, hey, come to us, and then rewarded the dog whenever they come to us, right?
Yeah.
We use the same door manners when we're going in and out of the door. We keep the same rules, manners, things like that. Ideally, the family will greet us with like the leash and the collar on, so that way we can work on the jumping whenever we come in. Then we suit the dog up. We teach the family about the collar first and foremost, and like what to do, how to use it, things like that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then we'll get it fitted to the dog. Then we'll test it on, and we also have the families feel it too, so that way we actually know what the sensation of the collar feels like. And then from there, what we do is then we'll take the dog outside. Then we start training. And like I said, that is using a long leash or a long leash and a remote collar. So once we found the dog's like working level, so to speak, working level just means like the range that is like, basically think about it as like the lowest number that gets the dog to respond, right?
Yes.
So I want to use, and in all training, I want to use the lowest amount of stimulation to get the dog to respond, right? For the most part, like that. Yeah. Anyways, so once we go outside, we start working on recall. The reason we like doing this to implement the remote collar is because it's fun, because the dog gets to go outside and he's having fun, right? Because we're using it on a really low level. It's just enough to be like, what is this thing, right? And like just be a little bit annoying. You saw it whenever we trained Sully, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it many times over the years, but you definitely saw it whenever we trained Sully. It's just enough to be like, what is this? And then as soon as he comes, we turn it off, right? And he starts learning, when he says come, if I do, I get treats. If I don't, then I feel this little weird thing. And then, okay. So then he starts making that association, right? Then every time we call him, he's coming to us, right? And so it's really fun. And so we pair it with fun things first before we use it as a negative. Now, there are some trainers that just start using it for bad behaviors off the jump. Not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying this is how we do it, right? Once again, there's a million different ways to do different things in dog training. There's a million ways to do it. This is just simply one way and our way that we typically start. This isn't how we start every time. This is just how we start with most dogs, once again. So that's it. That's week 2 pretty much. And then we have the family practice. I meant to mention too, between each appointment that we go out to, typically these appointments are once a week or within, 5-7 days of each other. Yeah. And the family that we're doing it with works with the dog 20 minutes a day, every day that we're not there, right? That's what they're supposed to do at least. And the families that get the best results do that or more. The ones that don't do that, they don't get the best results, right? Yeah. One of our trainers in Austin says, you train for the dog that you want, right? So and I love that because it's so true. If you want a great trained dog, you're going to put in the time and the effort. If you want just like a okay dog, if that's what you want, that's the results that you paid for, then sure. But the ball's in your court, right? Yeah. But they're practicing 20 minutes a day. So the family practices 20 minutes a day. If everything goes well, and I'm leaving out a lot of stuff about the remote collar. We'll probably do a whole episode on that and like how we teach families about it, break it down, stuff like that.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah. But generally speaking, that's it. And then on week 3, typically if the family's done their part, they've practiced and stuff, we can get the family to like the intermediate phase or the off-leash phase where the dog's like recalling off the leash in the backyard or in the front yard or something like that. And that is normally like a huge win for families because we're only 3 weeks in and we've already got your dog walking on leash, door manners, working on the jump in. We've got your dog trained on recall and recall. They're coming in called. Now they're off leash by the end of the lesson on week 3. Not every dog, but a handful, a lot of families do get there. And that's really cool for families because they're like, oh my God, this dog that would like bolt off, make me chase him around the neighborhood, scared me, running through the street, stuff like that is coming when they're called off leash. It's a really incredible feeling and people get super excited. And it's probably one of my favorite things to teach dogs as a trainer. But on that 3rd week, now that we've conditioned the collar properly, or what we consider properly. Now that we've conditioned the dog, then we can start layering it in for bad behaviors, right? So what we do is we start using it for like jumping and counter surfing and chasing the cat, which we talked about on the previous episode, right? We start using it for all those other negative behaviors that we don't like. But we started by making the collar fun first and then layered it in as a negative for bad behaviors, right? And then the 3rd piece is, I'll just jump in. All that makes sense for 2nd and 3rd lesson? Yeah. Okay. Any questions or anything that you think that you want to follow up on?
No, I think that was clear.
Okay, cool. Anyways, so week 2 and 3, working on recall. Ideally by week 3, we've got the dog coming and called off leash. Now we're layering the collar in for bad behaviors, and we're working on all the stuff that people called us and complained about that they don't like, right? Yeah. We've been working on that since week 1. Now we're just working on it a little bit of a different way, right? Pretty easy. Next is what we're going to work on. So the 4th week, we typically start implementing like the place and stay command. Now the dog already has like a decent understanding of like sit and stay because we've taught the dog door manners. Now what we're going to start doing is we're going to start working on teaching the dog like to go to a particular spot and lay down and stay. Now, what is place? Place can be anything that in our definition is that has like 4 borders and a boundary, right? So ideally, it's going to be a dog bed, a cot, something like that, like a dog cot. It could also be a couch, a love seat. It could be a chair. It could be a towel folded up on the ground. It could be a blanket folded up on the ground, right? Ideally, I just wanted to have 4 definable borders to be able to tell the dog where to be, exactly where to be. That's pretty much it. If I can get there, that's awesome. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So then we start working on place and stay. Ideally, we're just teaching the dog, go to this particular spot, stay there until you're told, and then from there, we'll tell you when to get up using that same release word that we used on lesson 1, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's pretty much it. So we're just teaching the dog, go there, lay down, stay until you're told to get up. We start adding in duration. How long can the dog stay? Distance. How far can we go from the dog? Distractions. What can be happening in the environment, right? Those are the 3 Ds as we call them. And that's what we work on as we teach the dog place and stay, right?
Okay.
So that's the 4th week. Typically we're doing that on leash. We might be using the prong collar, might be using the remote collar. In my experience, I found that starting with like a lower stem, like vibrate on the collar, works a little bit better for some dogs than others. And so we typically like light stem, but it's the same principle. Like if we are teaching the dog recall, we're using a long leash, then we're using a short leash, then we're using no leash. It doesn't make a ton of sense for me to use a long leash in the house. So I'm starting on the regular leash, the 6-foot leash, and then I'm going to no leash. It's the same principles. It's just applied in a different context, right? Yeah. So we teach the dog to place and stay. Like I said, I'm probably using a prong collar, maybe using a remote collar, something like that. But I'm just teaching the dog where the 4 boundaries are. Stay there till you're told to get up, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
Then from the 5th week, we're definitely layering in the remote collar for sure. And this whole time, all through weeks 1 through 5, we're also working on bad behaviors in the background. All the stuff that's problematic that people called us about, right? Now, ideally, by the end of the 5th week, the dog's staying really well. We can, go in and out of the house and different things like that. You can go out of the room, the dog's still staying, all that kind of stuff, right? And then the 6th week, they typically just hone in on anything specifically that we want the families like want to know, right? Or want to drill in on harder and things like that. And if things go well in terms of practice and training, and the dog cooperates and stuff like that, and the humans cooperate, normally by that point we do have the dog off leash and the dog's ready to graduate, and it's a ton of fun. One thing I forgot to mention on week 1, another reason too that we work on walking, I know I mentioned that a lot of the dogs we see are under exercised. We start with walking on leash because another reason for that is, 1, it builds a bond with the trainer and the dog, right? So we're not just starting out, using a remote collar and the dog might associate that with the trainer. We're building a relationship with the dog by taking the dog walking, which is a great way to build a relationship with dog. And it's fun, right? Because the dog gets to go out. Yeah, exactly. The second reason though is because a lot of families, like I said, that under exercise their dog or aren't exercising their dog at all or enough. Yeah. If they start walking their dog every day, they're going to see a big difference in terms of energy level in the house, which is going to be automatic reduction in bad behaviors, right? Because if a dog has too much energy, they're going to do all the stuff that we don't like them doing, right? And so that's why we do this, because we want the dog to have less energy to tear up your couch cushions or to frustrate you or whatever the behaviors are that are frustrating you. And so that's another reason. I forgot to mention all that stuff on week 1. There's a lot of background behind the way that I designed our training program. Anyways, going back to week 6, then we typically just hone in on what the family wants to focus on specifically. And then from there, what we do is then we graduate the dog. They have their ceremony. And then I meant to mention too, we also do the Wonder Dog tribe and games and stuff like that. And so every week we have an event that the dogs can come out to train around other dogs and people and distractions and stuff like that. Typically, most dogs are ready to come out to that. I would say after the first week, but if not the first week, the second or third week for sure. Yeah. Right. And on all these appointments, we're mixing and matching stuff, right? So just because we're working on place and stay on the 4th lesson doesn't mean we can't keep touching on the recall or the walk-in, or just because we did recall on weeks 2 and 3 doesn't mean we're not touching up on the walk-in or the door manners or the jump in or different things like that. So we're like I said, we're mixing and matching. This is just a general broad strokes how we actually do the training program.
Yeah, and you also individualize for certain situations for families, don't you? For example, door manners we did with Sully, but you also did door manners as in getting in and out of my van for my safety.
Yep.
So, you can adapt the door manners for other roles.
Yeah, I would just call that adding context, just using dog trainer words. That's just adding context. So once I've taught the dog one thing in one area, then I want to teach them the same thing in another area where it might be hard, or we have to take a step back in the learning pyramid to get the dog to the point where he can, there's door manners on the inside going out of the little training area that we have, and then out of the glass door at the front of the building that we're in. And then I just apply that same context to the car door, right? And so, I just applying context.
Okay.
Yeah. But overall, that's pretty much it. That's the gist of it. And like I said, that's how we turn dogs from the dogs that do all those bad behaviors I mentioned at the beginning, and the families having the goals they have for their dog, into Wonder Dogs in about 6 weeks' time. Ideally, we shoot for less than 60 days. Our ideal timeline that we tell people when they're buying training, unless your dog's under 6 months, ideally we want the training process to take about 60 days or less if possible. Because that means that, in less than 2 months, if you start in October, by the end of December, you're going to have a fully trained dog on your hands, right? Or at the beginning of December, depending on, whenever you start in October. You get the point. But that's the idea. And then, it's fun because they get their diplomas and they get their, graduation bandanas and all that kind of stuff. It's a ton of fun whenever they graduate. And it's just super cool. I graduated a family yesterday. I've graduated a bunch of families recently, but we graduated a family yesterday, and they had just gotten their dog a week before I started training with them this past summer. or rather this summer. And they'd only had their dog for like a week out of the shelter. And just the dog was night and day different. It was like came to him, a little scared, a little timid, and only been out of the shelter for a week. So it's still like getting to know them and the house. And they got a nice house and, big floor plan and stuff. So the dog's like just figuring out the whole world. But then the dog like graduated. And by the end, they were just so happy because all the dreams that they had thought of had come true. Like they live in a gated community and it's a fairly quiet area and stuff like that. And they're, walking the dog off leash every day. In the morning times he's telling me he can like walk out and drink a cup of coffee and like walk the dog off leash, and the dog's sniffing and just having fun, and the dog's greeting people well, and it's come a lot friendlier to strangers and stuff like that. And it's just really cool. And like, it was just a really cool experience. And so a lot of the stuff that people come to us with that are like problems and goals and stuff like that, people are really amazed. And one thing that we get in the sales appointments a lot is like, we'll plan out 6 weeks, and they're like, you mean you tell me you can do that in 6 weeks? And we're like, well, if the dog's not trained in 6 weeks, if we do our part and you do yours, we'll add extra appointments. We won't bill you anything for that. But yeah, it's a compounding effect. Like if week 1, you'll see a big difference and a big change in your dog. And then week 2 and week 3, you're going to see an even bigger difference in your dog. And then week 4, you're going to see an even bigger difference, right? And so then you can get to week 6 and I can walk in somebody's house and go, hey, what do you want to do today? And they're like, I don't know. What do you want to do today? I don't know. Graduate your dog, And so like we can get to that point though in training where like, we're like, hey, what's left to do, right? And like, and it's a really cool feeling. And it's just really incredible. Like, we've had at this point thousands of families like decide to like take the leap and make the change. And their dogs are completely transformed from the process. And their lives are transformed too, because, like people come to us so frustrated. Like I've had families that are like considering getting rid of the dog before. And that's not a lot. That's not the case often, but like the normal average family that comes to us for help, they're very frustrated. They're very frustrated. They're like at their wits' end. They might've tried some YouTube videos. They might've tried to train in the past, something like that. But I finally land on the solution and it works for them, and they just couldn't be more excited. And it's always such an honor and such a pleasure to like be able to like work for those people and do those things for people and stuff like that. So anyways, that's roughly though the 6-week process that we use to turn dogs into Wonder Dogs. I think we could break down our techniques and training methods and stuff like that a little bit more on a separate show. But that's a pretty good start for where we're at and stuff right now.
That's a great outline for people to.
Yeah. And if you don't hire us for training, you could do the exact same thing and it'd work for you and it'd work for your dog. Probably because I know it works. We quite literally guarantee it'll work. So
consistency and repetition.
That's the big ones. If you stay consistent, you do the homework, you do the reps, through doing the homework, like you're going to see results, period. Like you can't train and not see results. I guess you could if you're doing like really bad training, but you're going to see a difference, period. Yeah. So anyways, all that being said, practice, do it.
It's worth it.
Yeah. And we've got a couple different ways to help you too. Like I said, I don't actually care if you hire us for training or not. I would love that. I'd love the honor to like work with you and work with your dog. And that'd be such a privilege to us and for our team and things like that. But even if you don't hire us, like I said, you could DIY this and like do it yourself. Like you could learn about all that stuff and just do it. You don't need our help. Like you could just, and if that's not something that you want to do and you don't want to DIY, you're more than welcome to hire us for training. If you're in person, we'd absolutely if you're in like one of our service areas, we'd absolutely love to help you. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to wonderdogtraining.com. If you're interested in like doing our version of this program, you can go to trainmywonderdog.com. That's our online version, which means that we can help you no matter where you're at, no matter where you live, right? That's super cool. So you can go there and check out that program. It's absolutely awesome. It's the same training I would do if I was right there in your home and right in front of you. It's just done on your screen and done at your own pace. So you can go there if you want like, to follow my exact process. And I give a little bit more like the how-to, of course, in the program. So, but anyways, that's it. That's the process. That's how you could turn your dog from where they're at now to a Wonder Dog in less than 60 days. So I think that's pretty much it. You got anything else?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I already told you how you want to, if you want to get help with training, where you can go. If you enjoyed the show or if this made you think or, all that kind of stuff, feel free to like and subscribe and follow the show. Once again, that really helps push us up in the algorithm. And we could really use that right now as we continue to grow the show. So that's that. Next thing I was going to say, if you got value out of the show made you think, whatever it is, please feel free to share the show with friends, family, colleagues. Somebody that has an untrained dog, they're complaining to you about their dog. Feel free to share this with them. They could probably use it. And that's pretty much it. And I just want to, parting message, it doesn't take as long as you think. Like your life can be completely different in less than 60 days with your dog. Like if you love your dog, but they frustrate you, do what I just said. And it'll work, period. It'll work for you. If you don't want to do off leash, just do the on-leash portions of that whole training program and it'll still work for you. Just practice. It doesn't take as long as you think it will, and your life can be completely different with your dog in less than 60 days. Yeah. So try it. Let us know how it goes. If you need any help with training, we got you covered. So that is that. And we'll see you on the next episode.
See you next time. Bye.